Welcome to the Across the Pond Sports Network's WNBA podcast, Across the Pond Liberty. I'm Stacia.
And I'm Kirstin.
And this is the great week because we were wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Both of us predicted the Libs would go 1-1 this week, and they did not. And we are going to get to the reason why we are so excited. But if you know anything about the Liberty, you know why we're excited to talk this episode. But before we get to the more exciting game, not more exciting, but just more enjoyable for us because we get to do this really awesome thing called Talk Trash to, the Aces podcast. The Liberty did play the Lynx this week, and they've lost to the Lynx this year, but this is a 76-66 victory. We both thought they were going to win. They played on the road. Everything was pretty even, and then the Libs just outscored the Lynx in the last quarter, by 8 points. I believe it's 18-10, and it was one of those that was kind of back and forth, and they didn't really get their footing. But as we have said recently, with John Quell being back in MVP form, they are out rebounding so many people very decisively, and that has been the key to these victories.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a really awesome game. Specifically speaking of John Quell, she had 17 rebounds in that game on 15 points. She went off. And overall, as a team, we had 43 rebounds to their 32. So, yeah, we pretty much we killed them on that front. And it's just like we've been saying in the past couple episodes. One of the key things for us coming into this kind of more important part of the season is that we need to start getting these rebounds. We have such a tall team. Well, not fully overall, but we have a couple players on the team who are tall, who are incredibly experienced, and we just really have not been getting the opportunity, I suppose would be a fair way to say it, to utilize their height and their strength and their experience for various reasons. So it's nice to see that in these past couple of games, even in the past few weeks, honestly, we've been really ramping up the rebounds. 25 second chance points to their 10 second chance points.
Yeah, that's the game.
Yeah,
That's the game right
that's
there.
the game, exactly. That's the game right there, and that's just shows how important the rebounding and how helpful the rebounding has been for these games. So great to see.
It is great to see, and I'm happy you mentioned it because in our very first podcast episode, we talked about how they were so tall, and and then there was points where I'm like, why aren't you using your height? Nothing's happening, and a lot of that was kind of put on John Quell's shoulders because Stewie had been doing her job, and Sabrina's picked up her rebounding this month too, which has been huge because the starters have had to play a lot more because of the injuries. Um, and so I'm going to throw that out as we are going to get some more height back because in the Aces game, they did an in-game interview with Steph Dolson, and she says she's going to get back to practice this week, which
Mhm.
makes me extremely happy because you have a 3-on-3 gold medalist and a NCAA champion and a WNBA champion that's going to be coming back. Just is going to give more rest to get our bench deeper. And I will talk about why that's important when we hit the next game. But it's just exciting because the rebounding is amazing. And you said they had 25 second chance points when they only shot 30% from the 3-point line against Minnesota, 9 of 30. It wasn't a great shooting night. I mean, overall, besides the 9 of 30 from the 3-point line, it ended up being 21 of 45 from the rest of the floor. But that's because second chance points get you easier shots and putbacks against the Lynx, which was just huge because the Lynx only made 3 3-pointers and only had 20. It's like they beat us on 2-pointers, but when you have 6 more threes, that helps because they
Mhm.
out us from the free throw line and from the 2-point line. But getting second chance points may not just be putbacks, but kicking it out to the 3-point line and getting more chances for three. And even if the Liberty team is off, they're gonna make some because they're too good of shooters to miss an entire game.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. What's kind of stands out from that game is it is actually quite a low scoring game in comparison to what we've seen from the Liberty recently. Um, but particularly what stands out as well is Sloot. Sloot only had 2 points in that game, which isn't really like her. I think again, maybe just coming off that tiredness and that time off that she's had. Just not her best game, but she still had seven assists, and all of her other starters were very comfortably in double points. So yeah, it's great to see. And of course, Sabrina, casual as ever, scoring 6 3-pointers, just to add the cherry on top there.
Yeah. Yeah, Sabrina with 18, and then but Nyjah has 17. Jonquil has 15, and Stewie has 17. And Stewie hasn't been leading scorer, the past two games, and then against the Aces, get to that, but she hasn't had to carry the load as much recently.
Mhm,
Whereas the first half of the season, it was all kind of like Stewie, and then everybody else would get their points here, and then someone may get the lead. And I mean, I don't think Stewie's going to get the scoring title because Jules taking all the shots for Seattle. But the big thing is that right now she doesn't have to. She can have a bad game, and they can still win. And that's I think one of the biggest things that I'm seeing recently with this team, which sounds very weird when your best player can have a bad game and you can still win and you don't have to rely on her scoring because you're still going to go to her. But
mhm,
then that just means that when she does get the ball, when everybody else is scoring, then she's just going to be able to, have one on one instead of having like two or three people guarding her, which is going to make it easier for her to score. So
mhm,
that's what I am looking forward to is Stewie getting more one on one opportunities because everybody else is stepping
mhm.
up like across the board.
Yeah, and we can kind of get back to seeing Stewie as she has been for the past few seasons, playing for Seattle and getting those opportunities as well. um, to no longer have again to be the one that's carrying the load. Everyone is really stepping up, and not just stepping up now and then. It's like consistently, the whole of the starters are all just performing so well. And then we have the occasional couple bench players who come in and put up great numbers as well. It's a really great, well-rounded team, and I think as the season's gone on, it's just been so evident that all the players are finding their footing, they're finding their roles, everything's balancing out. And like with our statistic we mentioned last week, in those like however many games we recapped last week, there was at least one game where each of the starter had 8 games. That's right. There was at least one game where each different starter led the team in scoring. Like that's a crazy stat to have, and it just shows the way this team balances out, the way that it's not like a one star show where there's one player who takes all the limelight and they get all the points, they get this and that. Like everyone is stepping up and everyone is starting to play so well together. And that's the kind of risk you take when you make all these trades in the off season. You bring in so many like all-star players who are leading the front in their kind of areas. Like we've got assists, we've got rebounds, we've got point scorers, 3-point scorers. Um, is who is going to be the star of the team? Who is going to stand out the most? And it's just been so nice and so kind of surreal to see the way that no one is outshining the other. Everyone is having their moment, everyone's stepping up, and they are just working so well together and not losing any of what they've previously been able to show in other teams. It's just great. The way they've gelled together is just so impressive.
Yeah. I would say that the only member of the Liberty squad that is outshining everybody is Ellie, the mascot for the Libs,
Oh yeah.
because it's one of the best mascots in the W because, I mean, I would like everyone to go up against, like, a dance battle against Ellie because she's killing it. So, I mean, if anyone's gonna do any kind of shining, it's her. I mean,
Oh yeah.
hands down, hands
See
down.
that the stomp that they were doing in the kind of game breaks. I thought that was so funny the way that they were making the camera shake as she like stomped. I was
She's
actually
an
killing
elephant.
myself laughing. Yeah,
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 she's
of
stomping.
course.
Yeah, you have to shake, yeah. I
Yeah, of
mean,
course.
it's like Jumanji when, like, the stampede happens, you gotta
Yeah,
keep coming, and I'm from an area where there's cows, so, like, when the cows are coming, you feel it.
yeah.
So, yeah, all that stuff, but yeah, anyone's gonna outshine, it's gonna be Ellie.
Of course, of
Alright, so
course.
alright, so that is, you know, our rundown of the Minnesota game as much as, we would be more invested in a Minnesota game. We all know that it wasn't prime time, but Sunday afternoon on ABC with stars in the house. I mean, so many players were there, and then Ted Lasso himself, Jason Sudeikis, a Kansas-born man. That's right, I'm from Kansas. Ted Lasso's from Kansas. Even though he got the most famous he's been going over to your side of the pond, was there. And this may have I don't wanna, like, gloat too much on this, but, like, I also am gonna do what Sandy said in the press conference and just enjoy this. She's happy, but she doesn't get too high
Mhm,
or too low. I'm so happy about this game. It was not what I expected in the best way. When the Liberty win 99-61 over the Las Vegas Aces, for the world to see. Like, a sellout game, I know they're not opening up the upper bowl, but what they were selling was a sellout game, and so the crowd was there just to witness the excellence of this team, and everything that we knew that they could be was in this game, and yet the first half, I can say that I believe I called my mom at halftime and said, "They're outplaying them, they're only up by 5."
mhm,
That's what I thought about the first half. I said, "I feel like they're completely outplaying them, and they're only up by 5," because they would just have these lapses defensively in that first half where they would get all this momentum, and then there'd be something, like, really easy for Vegas to do, or they just kind of, like, have a little turnover. I'm like, "Just tighten it up. Just tighten it up. Everything is pretty good. Just make it better." And, I mean, that was what I was going through in my head, and I was not ready for how much everything tightened up in the second
yeah.
half. Liberty outscored the Aces
Mhm,
50-17. I mean, they didn't allow them to have double digits in the 3rd and 4th quarter, and I am just I like, what? And not only that, I'm gonna bring it back to Minnesota. Minnesota scored 66 points in their game. The Aces scored 61. So, this rebounding that we're talking about is outstanding because there's less opportunities and they're playing such great defense together as a team. When you only allow 2 teams to score 127 points in back-to-back games, you are doing as well as you can be defensively.
mhm. No, they were absolutely outstanding. I loved, like, that game. I was just sitting the whole time, like, smirking. Just such a great feeling. Like you said, we both guessed that we probably weren't gonna win this game. We were just playing it safe. Not that we didn't have faith, but we were kind of going off what how we'd seen the Aces performing recently. And man, they absolutely killed them. They absolutely killed them. I think one of the biggest things, again, that we must mention from this game is that they doubled them in rebounds. We had 48 rebounds to their 24 rebounds. And we mentioned coming into it last week that obviously the Aces were missing a big part of their team in Candace Parker because she's out with her foot injury. So that was already kind of playing to our advantage that they were losing a great rebounder. We had Jonquil who was on fire, and man, did she perform that game. She played so well. She had 14 rebounds again on 12 points. Double double. MVP Jonquil's back. Yeah, we just absolutely killed them, and like what you were saying, we just looked so fluid defensively. The first half was good, but you're right, we did have some lapsing moments, which is why comfortably they scored 22 points in both the first and the second quarter. As soon as that hit halftime, we came into it, and I was nervous because we've also mentioned previously about our issues with our third quarters, where sometimes we kind of lose it in the third, and we go, great leads, 20-point leads sometimes, and we lose it in the third. But we came out 30 points in the third quarter to their 9 points. That, like, insane. We absolutely tightened up defensively, and they could not get a shot to go. They just absolutely could not get a shot to go. We kept Aja Wilson to only 9 points, scoring 2 from 14 from the field, scoring most of her points off of free throws. We locked them up. We locked them up.
It was I mean, it was kinda surreal. I didn't really think what was happening,
Mhm.
especially because and this is why I said this about Stewie in the first game, is she hasn't been leading scorer recently and has been just hanging out. she didn't score hardly at all in that first half. And
Mm,
then Sabrina comes out and is doing well in the 3rd quarter, and then so does Stewie. But and this is it sounds so weird to say that, Stewie only had 23 points. It just was so spread out, and she wasn't shooting well. She was 8 for 20 from the floor, which, I mean, that is 40%, but she was 4 for 9 from 3, but those happened later, and so Stewie wasn't fully on. I mean, it's not like, as we've joked about, her 45 points in 3 quarters against Indiana, that's something. But it was just a little stagnant in the first half, but all 5 starters, Sloot was 2 for 3 from 3, and she was having a hard go in the first half of the season shooting from three-point range
mm,
percentage-wise after coming off her last few years in Chicago is one of the best she'd ever shot, 3-point percentage wise. So,
mm.
I mean, is Allie there with Sloot, like helping her get confidence with her stroke from outside? Is Allie in New York instead of hanging back at their home in Chicago? Like, is she doing that? Is or her and Sabrina swapping stories and just getting more confident with her shooting? I don't know, but Sloot's been shooting well, even though in that Minnesota game she had two, but in the Sparks game she had two threes in the fourth quarter. We talked about that last week, so she's getting more confident. And they said this over the air with her is that she is now in second place all-time WNBA assist and just passed Tisha Pinachero. And then there's another stat kind of book that I look at that says she's one behind. It doesn't matter; she's going to be past her, and she's only got Sue Bird to catch. But they said that, and so I trust Ryan and Rebecca and Holly that Sloot is
Mhm.
now number two all time for assist. But all 5 starters, Betnijah, 13 points, Stewie, 23, John Quell, 12. And it seems so weird that we're just like happy with 12 points,
Mhm.
but when you have 14 rebounds, I mean, and then 4 assists for John Quell. Sloot had
Mhm.
10 points, 6 assists. But this is how many assists the starters had, and I have to do my quick math here. Oh, it's not hard. It's 25 assists. The starters had 25 assists. So you're averaging 5 assists per starter, and they're putting up 89 points together and also hitting, gosh, I'm doing this really very quickly right now. 19, 18, 38 rebounds for the starters, 25 assists, 89 points. I mean, that's okay. Those are okay numbers. It's
Those numbers alone would have very comfortably won the game. I mean,
yeah.
their assists, the starters' assists were completely outscored the entire of the Aces assists as well.
Yeah. I mean, they had more assists than the Aces had rebounds, the starters, because there were still 3 more assists that Kayla Thornton had. So, when you have more assists than a team has total rebounds, it's just called pure domination. And I'm not gonna get too cocky because the money game still, is the next one that they're playing, and they play the Aces back to back in Vegas.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a busy week because I believe that they have 5 games in 8 days because they have a back-to-back game after the second Aces game, where they have to go to Phoenix, and they're gonna be on the road, so this is gonna be a tough, like, 2 weeks to end August or 3 weeks to end August, but you couldn't have sent a bigger message to the league and fans and everybody to just say, "Hey," and we've kind of shunned this because everybody has, but, "Hey, guess what? We're a super team." I mean, that's what they
Oh,
said.
yeah. Oh,
There's
yeah.
there's no ifs, ands, or buts around that. They didn't just say it, they kind of shouted it from the rafters,
Mhm.
and, when you're screaming that from New York, I mean, the planet hears it.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I
but
mean,
that is
just
not saying that Vegas is not still Vegas, but this was a game.
yeah. Vegas, I mean, Vegas, they had a very bad game, a very, very bad game, and it was all the more accentuated by just how well New York played. But one moment in that game that really, it was in the first quarter, I believe, where John Quill had that elbow to Aja's face. I like at that moment, I got flashbacks to what we spoke about last week, and I was like, she's gonna get flagrant too. She's gonna get sent off, and that's gonna be the game. If we don't have John Quill, we don't have that extra power that we were talking about last week, where we can completely annihilate them on
Yeah,
rebounds. So I those couple minutes where Aja goes to the locker room, does her concussion protocol, I was like, oh, this game is I'm nervous right now. I'm nervous to find out what happened, but thank God
Oh,
that
yeah.
she managed to get away with a flagrant one for that and, stay in and play really well.
I can tell you that I can go back and forth on that because, I want New York to win. I'm cheering for Jonquel, but you can't not love Asia. And Asia bounced back on her birthday and had 28 points and 14 points against the Wings. So I'm like, happy
Yeah.
birthday, Asia. Um, but on that one, I feel like every time we watch something in slow mo, when it comes to that, it looks so much worse than what it is.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, I mean, I'm going to say that she led a smidge sooner than her turn. She's also taller, and Asia was in defensive position. And
Mhm.
so I knew she was gonna get a flagrant one. Like, I was like, "This is at least." I didn't think she was gonna get the flagrant 2 just because it was flat under the neck, and it wasn't the
Yeah.
point of the elbow. But I think the bigger conversation is and Ryan Rucco and Rebecca Lobo, if you ever hear me say Ryan and Rebecca and you listen to this, I would think you know who they are. The broadcasters, I think Ryan said it where, "Why if you're doing this," and my roommate also said this, "if you have concussion protocol, immediately you need to get checked out. Why do you have to be the one to shoot the free throws when the foul is committed on you in that situation if it is a flagrant one? Because other times you can go out and then come back in.
Mhm.
Because on that, you'd have to leave, and if you don't shoot the free throws, you're gonna be gone for the whole game." And that makes absolutely no sense to me because if the whole point is player safety, why
Mhm.
would you have to make the decision to go out there and shoot? And if it is a flagrant one, no one's gonna be on it. You could go there and just, like, roll the ball under there or, like, underhand toss it or whatever and then go get checked out. But that just seems backwards to what
Yeah.
it should be when it comes to these kind of protocols to make sure that players are okay because you shouldn't be able to take someone out just because they don't shoot free throws when they need to immediately get checked out to make sure they're good.
Mhm.
So, that was something that I thought was confusing to take away from the joy of the game. I
Mhm.
was just like, "This is wrong." I even thought that, like, if John Quell got it upgraded and then Asia didn't come in if John Quell didn't get it upgraded and then Asia didn't shoot the free throws, it's unfair to anybody if that would have
Yeah.
happened. And so those are things that I'm just like, "This is crap," um,
Yeah.
in that
No, I
situation.
agree. I think that was quite a strange one because I mean it was a hard hit that she got, especially from someone with like Jonquil's power and her height. And in the specific place it was kind of like her neck slash back of the head. Like that's the worst place to get hit is the back of the head. That's so dangerous. I don't agree with that rule either. But hey ho, we're not the ones that make the rules, so but yeah.
But that when you said that we're not the ones that make the rules, this is where, uh, I mean, that was something that Players Association needs to have a say in,
Mhm,
because there's so many times I think and I have officiated, broadcasted, been a fan, been a coach, been every part of the game that you can be, and I just don't understand because I swear so many people that make these rules, like, barely played or didn't play now,
mhm,
when the game has changed. Same thing for officials. They played to a certain point and then, had a good idea on things. Because no officials are tall, so you're not seeing a 6'5" official. So it's not
mhm.
like they've taken that elbow to the neck down low. Um,
Yeah.
there's not 6'5" officials. Everybody's like, 5 foot to like 5'9". And so I would think that there needs to be something in that with the players association. It would be nice to have them have a say in these kind of rules that need to get changed. And I'm sure that there's other things in there that are beyond my comprehension or knowing, but that needs to be one. And
Yeah.
Ryan Rucco is just like, I don't understand this. And that's just
Mhm.
it. I don't understand this. Um, so take that away. Asia stayed in the game. John Quell stayed in the game. Happy about that. And who knows how that affected Asia the rest of the game with her 7 rebounds and 9 points. But um, I think the key is we talked about how Candace is gone. And I like Kia Stokes. She comes in, she does her job, but she had no points and she only had 2 rebounds. And so it's going to be a big hole having Candace Parker out. And Alicia Clark didn't do anything, and she did something in the first game. She only had 3 points. She made 1 3, and she's a key, quality player. But
Mhm.
and Vegas has gotten shorter without Candace. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, and then they signed Elena Coates for a hardship contract, and then Caleb George. But everybody just looked just confused on everything. I'd say
Mhm.
the person that looked the least confused in this game was Sabrina, especially when she was dancing on the sideline, which is something I don't really think that I would see that often. But, again, with the joy of making 60% from the three-point line and 12 of 19,
Mm.
on your shots and having 7 assists and 5 boards, I think it's safe to say that Sabrina had a good game. And,
Yeah.
I mean, her dancing just makes me happy because I don't see her let loose that often, so that was something that was really just fun at the end. Because yeah,
No,
Sabrina dancing.
not only to, like, undersell her there, like, she had a great game, she had 31 points. She had 5 threes in the first half. I was sitting watching this, like, she just made her, like, career high threes. She had 8 threes in the game earlier in the season, and I was like, "She's on track to beat that and absolutely smash it." Unfortunately, she didn't. And towards the end of the game, Sandy Brundello was subbing in a lot more of the bench just to give them runs because I mean we were absolutely annihilating them. Um, but she had an amazing game, and again, just the way she shoots her threes, she has such a quick shot. She gets the pass, and it's like immediate. It's immediate. There's no, like, second thought to it. There's no, like, "Oh, I need to set my feet." It's like clockwork. She just gets that, puts it straight up from, like, a meter, 2 meters behind the three-point line just so comfortably, like she's
I'll
just shooting
translate
free
that. I'm gonna
throws.
translate that. Sh
Sorry, yes.
it was about 8 feet behind the three-point line
Yeah.
for everybody out there, just translate from Scotland.
Yeah.
Meter
But
and a
it's just
half, 2
it's
meters.
yeah. It's just crazy. Crazy to watch, and she's such an impressive player. The whole Liberty are so impressive. I have to give everyone credit where it's due, but just Sabrina went absolutely off in that game, and I was loving it.
Well, and then I talked about in the Dallas game, the game that they lost, like about a month ago, um, 3 weeks ago, that Dallas had 80 shots in that game, and we had 76 shots in this game, which half of them were threes, and this is probably the only time I would be happy that half of them were threes because you made 17 threes. You made 51 points off threes. Vegas beat you by 10 points just from your threes. That's it. Like,
Mhm.
like, you that I mean, it's not always gonna be that way, but we just have to, like, relish this moment, when you I mean oh, but Ryan and Rebecca did say this, and I also noticed this during the game, that there were not that many fouls called. There was only 16 free throws shot this whole game. Vegas went 9 for 10, and we went 6 for 6, and
Mhm.
there were sometimes I thought it was, like, a little rough here and there, but it also had such a flow and just kind of, like, let them play, so I thought that that was fun because it was like, "Okay, everybody's getting not calls, and everybody's just kinda playing," but it when you talked about the flow earlier, I think that was nice, and so I even though there was sometimes I was like, "Ooh, that looked like it should have been a foul," I was also
Yeah.
very happy with how the officials officiated this, which is something that I don't say, enough, I
Mhm.
think. We don't say enough, but so props to them because that made me happy because everything was just, you know, flowing and that I can say
Yeah.
that about the first half because I mean, nothing mattered in the second half after that 3rd quarter. It really didn't. Um, yeah, but I mean, the more important game I mean, not more important, this is great for morale and all
Mhm.
kinds of things, but, um the Liberty in the next week will have 3 games. They play the Sky tomorrow night, and then they play the Fever on Sunday, which is the day after the Basketball Hall of Fame, induction ceremony, and I believe this is the first time that the Fever are gonna be on ESPN because I do remember Holly Rowe saying something about how she's covering the Basketball Hall of Fame induction ceremony and then is immediately going to Indianapolis the next day. And she said, "I'm not missing this because the only time the Fever are on ESPN because I think she,
Mhm.
Aaliyah Boston and it's versus the Liberty." So, I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
So she made sure that she was going to be there. And then on Tuesday, so that home against the Sky tomorrow in Indianapolis on Sunday, and then they have to go to Vegas to play the Aces on Tuesday, and that is the money game. That's the Commissioner's Cup game. And then on Thursday, play the Aces again, which is going to be on Prime. Both those games, Commissioner's Cup and the game on Thursday. are gonna be on Prime Video, which this is gonna be very interesting to play 2 back-to-back games in Vegas after just embarrassing them, and it's like so here is my question. We'll get to the Sky and the Fever, what we think our predictions, but we're staying on this Aces train right now. How much does this game where they throttled them against Vegas, who does it hurt? Who does it help more? Does it help the Liberty with their confidence, or does it help the Aces getting revenge in their minds? That's a question.
That was my kind of immediate thought after the game. I mean, I was absolutely buzzing, and I was so ready to, like, post stuff on my Instagram and at James and be like, "Oh, like, look at this, look at these scores." And then I stepped back for a second and I thought, I was like, "This is just adding fuel to the fire." Like,
Yeah,
I am just feeding this, and this game, in my opinion, and from the way that I see it from me playing basketball myself, is if I have a loss like that, I am coming back, like, no holds barred, like, I'm going for it, and I think that's unfortunately what is gonna happen here. I mean, we've absolutely killed them. I'm sure it'll serve to give us some confidence maybe for the second matchup in this next kinda week, but I think personally, this first game, Aces are gonna come out firing, they're gonna be hungry, they're gonna wanna absolutely annihilate us. So, I think for that first game, certainly this game serves more in favor of the Aces. But the second game, I think coming back from whatever goes down, the Liberty will then be able to look back at this game and be like, "Okay, no, they can't do that to us. We just did that to them. So here's our confidence now, and here's us coming back, and here's us knowing that we can beat you guys." So that's my thoughts. How about you, Stacia? What do you think?
I think that the Liberty are on the upswing, and I
Yeah.
think the Aces are kind of I mean, they did just beat the Wings, and then I think they kind of just accepted that 3rd quarter, and Becky didn't really put anybody in. They had to have a starter in at one point in the 4th quarter, but it was kind of like, "Look what you did." But they're professionals, and Vegas are the champs, and they're excellent, and they've had one of the greatest starts this one. So I feel like Vegas is more motivated, but I feel like the confidence is bigger because the Liberty know how good they're playing right now. So I feel like this is a little bit better for the Liberty because not only did it prove that they could do it, it proved that they could like really do it. And Vegas is kind of hurting right now. I mean, all the stuff with Raquana, even though she hadn't been playing, with her being away from the team right now, that's huge. Raquana Williams, that's huge. And then Candace not being there, that's also huge
Mhm,
because you have the intelligence of someone that's done it twice.
mhm,
Because I mean, Chelsea's done it twice. That's true. Um, Chelsea's done it twice. Stewie's done it twice. So like won the championship twice. So it's going to be very interesting on what happens. But I feel like the Liberty have more confidence right now. I think this is better for the Liberty, and not just because of how well they scored, but because the past 2 games defensively have been immaculate. And
mhm,
so that coming together has been huge because they've been just weak on perimeter defense and help side and communication. And this game just and even with the Lynx, 66 points. They weren't as good offensively, but they still won a game where they only scored 76 points. And holding the Aces to 61, yeah, the Aces are gonna be ticked. Yeah,
mhm.
but 61 points? I mean, no one's even come close to doing that. I mean, did the Aces have 60 points at some point and a half this year? Like, it's been I think they had. So doing that because you can always control your defense. You
Mhm.
can't sometimes control if the ball's going in. So them finding their groove defensively, I think, is the biggest factor in this that I feel that it's better for the Liberty.
Okay.
Yeah, you made 'em mad, but you can turn that emotion easily.
Mhm.
It's simple because defense is all about talking and work, and that's what the Liberty are doing. So,
Okay.
okay, so next 3 games, we may or may not have recorded by the time they play the Aces twice, but we'll definitely record it after they play the Aces on Tuesday.
Mhm.
Just we'll see on where it falls for scheduling. But I can tell you that they're playing the Sky. The Sky had beat the Wings this year. They kind of were up and they're down, and now they're getting back there. Haven't, since the coach left them, they're starting to find their footing again. So they have the Sky at home, and we always talk about how they are better on the road than at home. And beating the Aces by 38 just kind of says, okay, we're good at home now too, even though it's only one
Mhm.
game. But I have them picking. I have them beating the Sky. So Liberty are my pick on Friday against the Sky. Who is your pick?
Yeah, Liberty. Liberty as well. I do think Sky certainly have been starting to kind of pick up the pace, find their feeting a lot more, but I think based off of how the Liberty have been performing recently, it's no skin off Liberty's nose. Like they've got this.
Gotcha. And then on Sunday with that ESPN game, when you get to actually watch it in, a decent time,
Yeah.
at 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock Central Time, 3 Eastern here, they're playing the Fever. Now, first game, they killed the Fever. Second game, they beat them in overtime because they lost their minds for, a half a quarter. And then the third time they play, they kill them again. So are the Fever going to make this a game? Or are the Liberty just going to be like, nah, kids, nah? That's the
I
question.
I think it depends on the outcome of the Sky game, if I'm honest. But again, going off like what I'm thinking for the Sky, we're gonna beat the Sky. It's gonna be a good game, and I think that's just gonna continue on through the Fever game. Maybe if they don't have a great game against the Sky, it might throw a little spanner in the works. But nah, I have it Sky win, Fever win as well. Like there's no messing about at this time of the season.
Yeah. I think it's great that you said throw a spanner in the works because I watched a Vanity Fair video with Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone where she was teaching her like UK slang, and so I understand exactly. They're just gonna throw a wrench at everything. So
Yeah.
spanner in the works. It's always a good thing. But I can tell you my favorite UK slang is up the duff. I feel like that may be up the duff is great. If you
Yeah.
don't know what up the duff means, it's actually very positive. But look that one up. Look up what up the duff
Yeah,
means.
it's very
It doesn't sound great, but it's met with like with great fervor. So there's that. I also think they're going to beat the Fever.
Mhm,
Um, Depending on what happens with the Sky, if they just come in with the right mindset against the Fever, they're fine. So I have them 2-0 as well, and then they have the Liberty for the money, or the Liberty have the
mhm.
Aces for the money in Vegas on Tuesday, and then they'll play them again on Thursday. I will say that I think they have a better chance of beating the Aces on Tuesday than they do on Thursday
Okay.
because because that will be they have such a long road trip, and so if they're gonna put all of their energy into a game, it's gonna be the money game. I
This
know
is
it's not
true.
regular
This is
season,
very
so I have them I think oh, I hate doing this because remember how if I say they're undefeated, they'll lose one?
mhm,
But I have them beating the Aces on Tuesday, riding this confidence wave and defensive wave as well. And because against the Sky and the Fever, they can work on all their defensive schemes to get ready for the Aces.
mhm,
And if they do that, they have more room for air to do different things to prep them for the Aces. And I'm not saying that every game is like a prep, but like games are preps for the postseason as long as you're playing
mhm,
well. So I feel like they can use those 2 games to really just kind of continue on what they want to do defensively and throw things in there. And also, if Steph Dolson is coming back, then you have another player that you're working in there too to just make sure you can figure out what you need to do for breaks,
mhm.
or if someone gets in foul trouble, to put Steph back in to get her back in game shape. So I have them beating the Aces for the Commissioner's Cup final, just because that just would be fun. So I have
Okay.
them 3-0. What do you have against the Aces on Tuesday?
I can't put it past. I think that Aces, like as much as Liberty are coming off their confidence boost and they'll have time to prep and sort out their defense and everything, Aces have that time as well. Aces have that time to come in, get back into their flow. I mean, which they have been doing. Kind of I don't know, like, we need to give credit to the Aces because they are just won the championship. I mean, they're a solid team. They're super experienced. They know, like, these kind of games, they have proven that they will perform. They can and they will perform in these kind of games. Um, So I think, not to say the Liberty haven't, but each individually, these players have been successful, but as a team, we haven't been able to see that yet because they've not had the opportunity to play in a big game like this. So I think I just have to give credit to the aces and say, like, they've done it before. They know what they're doing. They know what to expect. They have just as much ability as the Liberty do to prepare for the game, to get themselves in the right mindset. I mean, they've done it all season. They did it all last season. And most importantly, they have that home court advantage. I think that is going to be a killer. Like, the home court for us the other day was just such a strength to our team, and Brianna Stewart said after the game that the energy was insane. The energy really helped them. It really fed them to continue playing, and that the Liberty fans had kind of set the standard for the rest of the season. And they're totally right. Like, that standard's been set, and Vegas are going to show up. Vegas fans are going to be loud. They always are.
Yep.
It's going to be crazy there, and I just think it's I just honestly see that they're gonna feed off that energy, they're gonna feed off of their motivation to come back fighting, and like I said again, they are so experienced in playing games of this kind of standard that I think we have to give credit to them. So I see that the Aces are gonna pull it off on Tuesday.
I'm gonna say this. So the Liberty have the Sky on Friday, and then they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games on the road after that until they come home and then play the Aces at the end of August. And the
Mm,
Aces, as of like their next game on Friday, they have 5 games in a row at home.
mhm,
So this is why I still choose the Liberty in that first Commissioner's Cup game because it will be their second game in this 6-game road trip. So I think they'll have more energy for that one. So that's why I choose Liberty. Now, when they play the Aces on Thursday, I feel like this is going to be a split, the 15th and the 17th. One team's going to win one game, one team's going to win the other. And so I'm edging more towards the money for the
okay.
Liberty. I don't think they'll beat them back to back. Um, you know,
No, neither
that's
do I.
yeah, I don't think so. And then they'll get them at home at the end of the month. But, yeah. Also, I'm gonna even though this won't count for regular season, the Aces haven't lost at home yet, and so they're due for a home loss. So, if they don't win the Commissioner's Cup game, I see the Liberty they have to win one of those games in Vegas
Yeah,
just to also prove not only they've proved that they can beat them, they need to
mhm,
prove that they can beat them on the road. And
mhm,
um, so this is gonna be interesting because you
yeah,
get 3 games in Vegas this year and 2 at home for regular season, even though Commissioner's Cup isn't regular season, it's not playoffs.
mhm,
And so that's gonna be huge because they have to if this pans out the way that the world has said it is with the Liberty and the Aces in the finals, as of right now, the Aces would have home court advantage. So they gotta win one on the road. And so this
mhm,
is a good kind of barometer and test to see if they can. Um, so yeah, looking
yeah,
forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it too, and
Tuesday, the money game. It's gonna be a lot.
mhm,
Um, all right, so before anything else happens, when it comes to basketball, we haven't mentioned this yet, and I mean the Americans are out, which hurts me, but also I know that they didn't play as well as I know they could because they couldn't score. I mean, defensively, they had 1 goal allowed in 4 games and then only won 1 game, so that's not fun. But FIFA Women's World Cup, we have 8 teams left in it. So, world stage, one of the biggest world events for any women's sport. Spain versus Netherlands tonight, Japan versus Sweden tomorrow, Australia versus France. Well, this is on my time on Saturday, and then England versus Colombia also on Saturday. Who besides, your fellow island, people with the
mhm,
English lionesses, who would you like to see win the World Cup besides England? Because I'm just gonna go and assume that you want England to win. So who do
yeah.
you wanna win?
No, no, this is a funny one because we spoke about this like off air last week. You know, if you know anything about the UK, you'll know that generally speaking, Scottish people and English people, and I say this in air quotes, don't get along
Yeah.
and tend to always be in disagreement with each other. And while that is very, very true, and I can tell you that from from living here my entire life, from going down to England, from having English people come to Scotland, it's very true, okay? But for me, not personally, I think if Scotland aren't competing in a tournament or in some sort of event and England are, I'm supporting England because it's England. Like, it's part of the UK. It's like I feel I'm kind of very close to home in England. So I think it goes without saying, like, I support England. Maybe not the most popular choice as a Scottish person, but I support England. However, if I'm not supporting England, I must say, and maybe I'm slightly biased because when I'm at Nike, I'm constantly surrounded by all of the France kit and the France branding and everything like that. I'm gonna have to say France because I know, I know. I really like France just as a country overall, but I love their kind of sport what's the word I'm looking for? The like environment and the importance that they place on sport as a country. I just support it and I'm for France. Like I would love to see France do it. I know very little about football though, so I could be making some like whack prediction right now or
Oh, I don't think
supporting.
so.
No?
I
Okay, well there you go. Because
I mean,
I know France
yeah,
are they perform very well in various sports. I know
and
football's one of them, so
oh, and they had one of the best ads I've ever seen in my life for, the World Cup because they had all their men's they, CGI'd their men and people being excited for it, and it was actually the women, and so it was one of the if you look up the France Women's World Cup
mhm,
advertisement, if you need to look up anything that is one of the best advertisements for women ever, it kind of shows just how, like, misogynistic people are
mhm.
and kind of, like, puts light in how talented these athletes are. So, I mean, that's the only thing I really care about when it comes to France on this one. I do not want them to win, and I know you're at Nike, but I'm just gonna throw this out that the Adidas kits for teams this year just blew Nike's away because the Colombian kit and then the Japanese kit are just so great.
Yeah.
Um, and this sounds so bad because you besides England, you go for France. That France is like the team I don't want to win. Um, and I'm gonna even go against England because I have Colombian friends, and so I want Colombia to win because they are and they're playing England because they've got such youth, and they took out Germany, and they took out Germany, and it was just one of those. I'm like, way to go! Like, I love the Colombians, but I like Colombia. I think Japan is playing better than anybody right now, and they're playing the Swedes, which I mean, someone said I should cheer on Sweden since they beat the US, and I like, my ancestry is Swedish, and I kind of laugh because the Swedes have always been one of the best teams ever
Mhm.
in women's football, and they've never won an international title, and they should have won the Olympic gold last year or 2 years ago, but they blew it in PKs. Oh, isn't that just a normal thing? Saying that as an American. Um, blew it in PKs recent in the Olympic, in the gold medal match, blew it there. And I like Spain. The Netherlands just said some stuff to us, so I'm not really cheering on them. Um, even though I do like some of their players. And Australia is hosting, so it'd be cool if Australia won. I just really do not want
Just anyone but
France.
France. Fair
Not
enough.
France, and then France would be the bottom, and then the Netherlands. And I do like the Lionesses so much, though, and
Yeah.
especially with all the injuries with so many of your top players. Oh my gosh. And there's a couple of the players have played in the NWSL, so when I see them out there, I was like, "I've seen you play." So "Go get 'em, girl." They're not there anymore, and I mean, we've had that with a couple Frenchies too, that I've enjoyed seeing play, but
Mhm.
I'm like, "No, thanks, France. No, no."
Fair, that's
But
fair.
we'll see what happens. I mean, because 'cause we'll be in the semis next week, so we'll
Mhm.
see, and technically by the next time I think we record, I think we'll have it set for who's gonna be in the World Cup final, but I'm really interested in football to see who's in this, and I'm not just one of those typical Americans that only cares that the Americans are in. I mean, considering they've been in top 3 every World Cup, but I mean, it's nice to see who's in there now, but had to mention the biggest
Yeah,
stage,
for sure.
the biggest
Biggest
sporting event.
women's
Yeah.
competition going on right now, yeah.
It's good stuff. So we'll see who wins, and Japan is the only team in the final 8 that's actually won a World Cup. So if Japan doesn't win, at least we'll have a new World Cup winner. So
Yeah, for
spreading the
sure.
love, more women's sports around the world, more opportunities, more winners, just makes it better for everybody. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
Kirstin is a 2-1 this week for the libs. I'm just gonna say that again. So there you go. Across the pond Aces podcast. She's picking your women like we both did last week. I mean, look how that turned out. And I'm
True.
saying they're gonna go 3-0, but they're gonna split sometime with the Aces, so they may win that Commissioner's Cup, but they'll win one of those games. But great week for the libs, especially on national television, and just proved how good this can be, and it's gonna be a great playoff. It's gonna be this
Oh, yeah.
playoffs are gonna be
I'm so
great.
excited.
So many teams, and it's I mean, we're ramping up. We still got a few more games in the fourth quarter left of the regular season, but it is gonna be a good one. Women's
Mhm.
sports are just on the up. But all
Yeah.
right. Well, for Across the Pond Liberty, I'm Stacia.
And I'm Kirsten.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.